Alright then, hello there everybody, Adam Clery from the FourFourTwos here for you today. And Tottenham Hotspur, they are really weird. They have just suffered another pretty big defeat in the context of their season, and both their fans and Jamie Carragher, for some reason, will tell you it wasn't a massive shock. But the thing is, this one image here perfectly encapsulates all three of the major problems they are having this season. Or rather, the two major problems they're having, and the one significant consequence of said major problems, if that makes sense. And I know I've just gone and done a Tottenham video, but trust me, right, this is interesting. Alright, so easy stuff out of the way first, right? This is Tottenham's probable preferred 11. I've not asked Ange, this is my best guess, but I would imagine this is what it should look like. But against Liverpool, just last week, their biggest game of the season, a semi-final second leg, it ended up, it was a flat 3 admittedly, not a 4-2-3-1, looking like this. Just to really hammer this point home, I'm going to highlight all the differences from the preferred 11 here. It is a lot. And in a game where you prefer to have 0 differences. And then we get to the Villa game just last night. They go back to their preferred formation at least, and this is the 11. And once again, I'm going to highlight all the changes from the preferred 11. Take a moment to look at that. And now, the changes from just the Liverpool game. Just in case it isn't immediately obvious, yellow here means that they did play in that Liverpool game, but in a different position. They've been moved around. And red means that they were not in the starting 11 for that at all. They've been thrown in here. So as you can see, a lot of disruption there, not a lot of consistency. And yet, despite all the chopping and the changing and the injuries and everything else, right, if you look at the underlying numbers in the Premier League this season, Tottenham Hotspur are good. Now in the league, they are level on points. In fact, recently just behind a team with a -17 goal difference when you've got +11. Like, that is not something I have ever seen before. Ever. Like, your goal difference is comparable with the teams in 3rd and 5th and 6th and 7th. And Villa, who just beat you, are within striking distance of the Champions League places, and you have a 14-goal swing going the other way. That should not be possible at this stage of a season, and yet Tottenham, the underlying numbers are just even more nonsensical. They've got fractionally less possession this season than Liverpool, only 2 goals less than Arsenal and Manchester City, better XG than Arsenal and Villa. Like, this is a good team. Like, they're dangerous when they get forward. They can open you up. They can create chances. They can take chances. They're posting decent defensive numbers as well. Like, Nottingham Forest and Newcastle have conceded more chances. They're more or less level with Chelsea, Forest and Newcastle for conceding shots on target. Only 1 more goal conceded than City, 2 less than Villa. Again, numbers absolutely comparable with the teams who are in the parts of the league that they feel like they should be in. And yet, these teams are here, and they are here. Like, it isn't even that long ago that they battered Manchester City 4-0 at the Emirates. But if you look at, like, their league position graph since then, it was here. It was only going one way until they got that win at Brentford. And even then, I don't think they looked that good against Brentford. So it's really concerning if you're a Spurs fan, even though the numbers say you should be doing better. So how then, I hear you exclaim, can all these just incredibly contradictory things I have just said somehow be true about Tottenham Hotspur? And, well, I've looked into this, right, and it is 3 things, or as I sort of like blethered to say at the start of the video, it's 2 things, and those 2 things make 1 thing happen, if that's English. So first up, right, the age of the squad and the age of the players is genuinely a bit of a problem. If you go and look at the stats, they haven't actually got the youngest team in the Premier League, like Chelsea, Brighton, Bournemouth. These teams are all having better seasons than them and actually have a lower average age. But that stat is slightly misleading because it's the average across the whole season, not just the sort of run they're on at the minute. And if I overlay the average ages of this team last night against Villa, that is 22.9, with 32-year-old Son up front. Like, if you take him out of that 11, which from a leadership perspective, you might as well have, sorry Son, love you really, then it drops to 21.8. So basically 22 then. Well, no, it's 21 until it's 22. Yeah, but 21.8 is a lot nearer to 22 than it is to 21, so Yeah, but 21.8 is still 21. It's 21 until it's 22, surely. No, once it goes over 21, it ceases to be 21. 21.8 is a lot nearer 22, and so on and so forth. But anyway, yes, while the average is obviously glaringly low, like Villa's was like nearly 27, or something, it's not even the average that is the problem here. You need to look at the experience throughout this team. Like, how many professional games have these guys played for this club or in this division? Like Son, Kulusevski, Bentancur, Porro, all seasoned pros in this team and in this country, so they're a nice little core for you. But beyond that, you're looking at players who've barely broken into the first team or only just arrived at the club. Like, what have you got here? Like Gray, Moore, 𝗫𝗚𝗍𝗘, all of them only like a season or two into their pro careers. Kinski's been chucked in at the deep end despite only making his top flight debut in the Czech League about 18 months ago. Kevin Danzo's probably still house hunting. Jed Spence has been at this club 3 years now, it's his third season, and that was his 11th start. Now, don't get me wrong, every single team struggles with injuries. That's not an excuse in of itself. Like, they'd all love to have their preferred 11s out every single week if only they could. But in Tottenham's case, it's just such a constant patchwork of players. It makes it absolutely impossible to breed all of the intangibles that you need, like the levels of trust, familiarity, cohesion. It's just impossible to do when you're A, so short of experience across the pitch, and B, having to make changes all the time even within that. And like, think about it as well, like Solanke, Richarlison, Van de Ven, Udogie, Romero, Dragusin, Johnson, Maddison, Odegaard, Christ, even Timo Werner, probably all get back into this team as soon as they become available. So even the familiarity you're breeding here isn't going to last. And I'm not going to get into a whole thing about it because the amount of names I've just wheeled off there should show you that the injuries are significant. Like, it doesn't stop them playing. As we said, the underlying numbers show they're still clearly capable of getting better results than they're getting. But just for getting a style of play, for having an actual brand of football, making this many forced changes all the time, just kills it dead. And not even just Ange ball, which is a complicated, high energy, like clever thing to play. Any kind of football would be killed by this. But yes, right, look, if you're a Tottenham fan, me standing here doing a video saying, oh, they've got a lot of young players and they're suffering with a lot of injuries, tells you absolutely nothing. And I'm determined not to waste anybody's time. So what does that actually mean on the pitch? Why is it such a problem? And I'm going to go back to the image I showed you at the start of the video, because this, to me, is quite incredible. Now, this is one of the most mind-bending graphs I've ever used on this channel, right? This is the number of progressive carries Aston Villa made in just 90 minutes against Tottenham. Now, if you're not familiar with the term progressive carries, it's you get the ball and you run with it, right? And it doesn't matter where that run starts, so long as it finishes, A, at least in the opponent's half, and B, closer to the goal than when you started it, it's a progressive carry. You've progressed the ball by carrying it. Now, in the Premier League, which has a lot of very good teams, on average, in a game, a team makes about 16 or 17 of these, right? Tottenham absolutely love them. They're a major part of their style, so they do about 22, 23. Everton, who do not ever want to do anything like that, or at least didn't under Dyche, they do like 11 or 12. But Aston Villa, in this one game, did... I've actually not even counted them. There's over 30 of them here, like 32 or 33. Now, Villa's average, they're a really sort of middle-of-the-pack team when it comes to this stat, is like 16 or 17, the Premier League average. And they've done over double that in this one game against Tottenham. That is balmy. And if you're wondering where I've got this from, by the way, this is Mark Stats on Twitter, who is an essential follow if you're a terrible, tedious nerd like I am. It's one of my favourite accounts. And what you are looking at here is the major consequence of Tottenham's injuries and the lack of experience they have in the squad. And if you chart the amount of these they've been giving away across the course of the season, you can see exactly why the results have gone so badly wrong. As the injuries have piled up, as the squad has got more and more disjointed, this has gone through the roof, right? Start of the season, they only allowed 9 of them against Newcastle, 12 against Arsenal, 10 against Brentford, 7 against Man United. But as the season goes on, you can see that number go up and up and up and up till it's almost like out of control. 32 against Manchester City, 28 against Fulham, 26 against Chelsea, 23 against Newcastle, 27 against Arsenal, 23 against Brentford. Like, even just comparing like for like against the same teams from the start of the season to the teams they've played most recently, like those numbers have more than doubled in some cases. And if you lose the ability to stop teams just running through you, then it doesn't matter what the underlying numbers about the amount of chances you're giving away are, or the amount of chances you're creating for yourself. These are massive, massive opportunities that are always going to punish you. And you could see that so glaringly in the Villa game last night. This is where we picked up at the start of the video, right? It's about as good as an example as you can imagine, because this is open play. There is no quick turnover. Martinez just has the ball. Spurs can be whatever shape they want to be, but when it goes out to 𝗘𝗫𝗧𝗓, they press. They do what they're supposed to do. They tighten the noose around the fullback, try to win the ball back high up and create a chance from that. But you can just see the lack of experience and the lack of familiarity. Moore comes wider to cut off the pass back to the defender, while Porro also stays wider to stop this pass down the line. Now, what is really mad about this, right, is that if you look really closely at what's going on here, Moore can see that the pass isn't a problem because Bentancur's gone and filled the gap behind Porro, but Porro can see that the backwards pass isn't an issue because Son has come across to close it off. And what is just so mad about this situation, right, is that Son, Porro, Bentancur and Moore all do the right thing based on what they can see. But the level of familiarity is not there, the level of trust, the level of understanding. Like Moore doesn't instinctively know Son's going to cut that off. And Porro doesn't instinctively know that Bentancur's going to cover in behind him. So they all do the right thing, but it leads to the wrong outcome. Because both Moore and Porro have gone slightly wide, it just leaves this gap in the middle and 𝗘𝗫𝗧𝗓 just walks right through it. And from there, their press now having just been walked through, this is their defensive shape. This is the position of the back four. This is the position of your two holding midfielders who should be screening it. Rodgers has all this space in the middle of the pitch to receive it, and then you see it, the progressive run, that thing that Spurs keep letting teams do. And yes, I know this becomes a goal ultimately because it's a goalkeeping mistake, but they did it over 30 times in the match. Like, this is not the goalie's fault. This is because they're so ungelled and uncoordinated and inexperienced and just unfamiliar in their press, in their actions, that they leave these massive amounts of space for teams to just sprint into. Over 30 times, man, like once every 3 minutes or better or something. And like even at the point where they do manage to react to this, 5 Tottenham players, half of their entire outfield gets drawn towards the ball, but none of them is in a position to do anything about this run. And then from there, it's just good play by Villa. Like, Marlon makes this run across, starting here and ending up here. So he takes Danzo from being in this channel to being in this channel. Porro can't get back all the way because he's too far up. Bentancur was only filling in there and gets drawn towards the middle, which is where he's supposed to be. And yeah, again, it's bad goalkeeping, but it's just such an easy move for them. I think I could show you like 10 other examples of this in the one game. Like Leon Bailey here, he just runs through the middle, and if he rolls in Marlon, then they score. And there was one stat I left out when I was going through Tottenham's defensive numbers because I wanted to bring it back here because that's good video construction. While the number of chances they're conceding is pretty good and the number of chances on target they're conceding is still pretty good, they have the lowest average shot distance in the Premier League. So when you get a chance against Tottenham, statistically, it is nearer the goal than if it was any other team. Southampton, Ipswich, any of the teams down the bottom, the chances against Spurs tend to be better chances. And that has been because over the last couple of months, when this team is getting changed constantly and they can't gel together, you can just run right through the middle of them. And if you do a chance like that, it's always going to be a counter-attack or a breakaway, or you lay it across, or you get in on goal, or something like that. You don't have to take 20, 30-yard pot shots. You'll get in eventually. But now, here's the real paradox for you, right? Because I don't think Ange Postecoglu could be expected to be doing much better given the circumstances. Like, he's got a defined style of play, and people say he's not changing it. He is changing it. It's just, it's virtually impossible to get anything to work when you're making all these changes and you've got this many injuries, right? But here's a graph for you. Tottenham are the most intense team, both out of possession and in possession in the entire Premier League. So the question you have to ask yourself as a Tottenham fan is, do you blame him, not for the results, but for the injuries. So if you are looking at that graph and going, well, no wonder we're getting all these injuries, they're running about so much, of course they're going to be tweaking and pulling and spraying and things, then absolutely, you have to get rid of the manager as a matter of urgency, because this will never, ever fix. But if you think professional footballers should just be able to run about that much, and he's been really unlucky with these injuries, then he is not the problem at all. You should try and keep him for as long as you can. But that's for you to decide, dear Tottenham fan, not I. So please let me know in the comments below whether you think he should stay or he should go. Think pieces, 500-worders, massive essays. I would dearly love to read all of it. And you can subscribe to FourFourTwo here on YouTube as well. That might be fun for you. You can get me across all the socials at Adam Clery, Clery. The FourFourTwo socials are in the corner of the video. The latest issue of the magazine I forgot to bring with me, but it looks like this. And is in all good retailers now, and the bad ones too. That's the thing I say at the end of every video. So yeah, bye. Bye. Bye, 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 bye. Tottenham.